Hallo, welkom by die hoofdiens vandag. Saam met my vandag het ek vir Chrizjuan Armse. En voordat ons met die diens gaan begin, gaan Chrizjuan net gou vir ons open met gebed. Dankie Chrizjuan.
Sluit die oë. Dankie weer vir alles wat U vir ons gegee het en dis ons vandag waar dit Sabbatdag is. Waar ons na preke gaan luister en help ons om 'n boodskap te ontvang van die preke en dis ons met die res van die dag. In Jesus naam, amen.
Amen. Baie dankie Chrizjuan. Kom ons gaan nou oor na die sangdiens toe.
God is liefde, juich ons harte en bedenk wat liefde doet. Dat Hy ons sy Seun gestuur het om ons sonde te versoen. God is liefde, juich ons harte en bedenk wat liefde doet. Dat Hy ons sy Seun gestuur het om ons sonde te versoen. Hy wat eerste lief gehad het in liefde ons vergeef. Nou kan ons sy God gebore uit die bron van liefde leef, uit die bron van liefde leef. God is liefde, juich ons harte en bedenk wat liefde doet. Dat Hy ons sy Seun gestuur het om ons sonde te versoen. Hy wat eerste lief gehad het in liefde ons vergeef. Nou kan ons sy God gebore uit die bron van liefde leef, uit die bron van liefde leef, uit die bron van liefde leef. It's Sabbath, our rest has arrived. It's Sabbath, a day God set aside. It's Sabbath, it's a joy and delight. It's Sabbath, it's Sabbath, our rest has arrived. It's Sabbath, a day God set aside. It's Sabbath, it's a joy and delight. It's Sabbath. Oh, holy God, this holy day, please purify our hearts today. Oh, holy God, this holy day, please purify our lives, we pray. It's Sabbath, it's a joy and delight. It's Sabbath, it's Sabbath, our rest has arrived. It's Sabbath, a day God set aside. It's Sabbath, it's a joy and delight. It's Sabbath, it's Sabbath, our rest has arrived. It's Sabbath, a day God set aside. It's Sabbath, it's a joy and delight. It's Sabbath, a holy God, this holy day, He's purified our hearts today. Oh, holy God, this holy day, He's purified our hearts, we pray. It's Sabbath, it's a joy and delight. It's Sabbath, it's Sabbath, it's a joy and delight. It's Sabbath. Facing a task unfinished that drives us to our knees, a need that undiminished rebukes our slothful ease. We who rejoice to know Thee, renew before Thy throne the solemn pledge we owe Thee to go and make Thee known. Where are the Lords beside Thee, hold their unhindered sway. Where forces that defy Thee still today. With none to heed their crying for life and love and light. Unnumbered souls are dying and pass into the night. We go to all the world with kingdom hope unfurled. No other name has power to save but Jesus Christ the Lord. We bear the torch that flaming fell from the hands of those who gave their lives proclaiming that Jesus died and rose. Ours is the same commission, the same glad message ours, fired by the same ambition. To Thee we yield our powers. We go to all the world with kingdom hope unfurled. No other name has power to save but Jesus Christ the Lord. Oh, Father, who sustained them, oh, Spirit, who inspired, Savior, whose love constrained them to toil with zeal untied. From cowardice defend us, from lethargy awake. Forth on Thine airy send us to labor for Thy sake. We go to all the world with kingdom hope unfurled. No other name has power to save than Jesus Christ the Lord. We go to all the world with kingdom hope unfurled. No other name has power to save but Jesus Christ the Lord.
Wat 'n wonderlike sangdiens was dit nou nie. Chrizjuan Armse, is dit jou volle naam?
Wel, ek het 2 name.
Okay. Wil jy dit met ons deel?
Wel, my eerste naam is Chrizjuan en dan my tweede naam is Rochelle.
Het klink nie asof dit makliker word nie. Het jy dalk enige noemname wat jy genoem was as kind? Wat jy met ons wil deel?
Wel, ja, baie van hulle is embarrassing.
Okay. Jy hoef hulle nie almal te sê nie.
Okay, wel, my broer het my, toe ons baie klein was, het hy my springkaan genoem of kikiriki.
Kikiriki.
Ja. En dan my ma het my Floy genoem.
So ek neem aan jy was baie vol energie en het nooit stil gesit as kind.
Ek was baie spelerig, ja.
En nou, wat noem mense deesdae jou nou?
Wel, my noemnaam is Kiki.
Okay.
Maar dis is meestal as hulle nie my naam kan onthou of dit kan uitspreek nie, dan sê ek vir hulle noem my nie Kiki.
Kiki. Dis so cute. Okay, nou wil ek vir jou nog 'n vraag vra. As jy moet kies, okay, of jy in die stad kon bly of op 'n plaas kon bly, waar sal jy bly?
Definitief die plaas.
Die plaas, dis die beste. Amen.
Ja.
Okay, nou die ander vraag, okay, hierdie is meer van 'n ernstige vraag en ek wil net by jou weet, okay? As jy moes kies, okay, tussen kiwis en pineapple op pizza, wat se een sal jy opsit?
Definitief pineapple.
Okay. So nou by daai die kiwi uitgesny, nou wil ek die vraag vra, as jy moet kies tussen pineapple of niks pineapple op 'n pizza, wat se een sal jy opsit?
Wel, hang af wat op die pizza is.
Okay, maar as jy 'n pizza basis gegee word en jy moet jou eie pizza bou en ons pineapple daar, sal jy dit opsit?
Ja.
As hy sit hom daar. Okay. Daar het julle dit. Pineapple op pizza altyd. Ons gaan nou luister na 'n spesiale item en daarna gaan Chrizjuan vir ons 'n bietjie meer inligting gee oor ons gasspreker.
All I once held dear, built my life upon all this world's treasures and was to own. All I once thought gained, I have counted lost, spent and
Wel, wat 'n wonderlike spesiale item was dit. Baie dankie Martin daarvoor. Chrizjuan, kan jy ons 'n bietjie meer asseblief vertel van ons gasspreker vandag? Waar is hy vandaan? Wag, nommer 1, wat is sy naam?
Okay, so die gasspreker is Goetz en hy kom van Amerika af.
Okay. En is daar nog enigiets anders wat jy ons kan sê? Het hy 'n familie? Het jy hom al ontmoet?
Wel, ek het hom al ontmoet persoonlik by een van Adventist se kampe jeugfees 2017.
Okay, ja.
En hy het 'n familie, hy is al 'n pa en hy is baie lief vir sy kinders. Hy's 'n groot familiemens en ja, hy is baie lief vir God ook.
Wow. So ek neem aan jy is baie opgewonde oor vandag se boodskap wat hy vir ons bring.
Ek is verskriklik baie opgewonde.
Okay, wel, kom ons hou jy nie op bitterkole wagend nie. En kom ons gaan reg uit die diens toe.
Welcome. The theme is mission in times like these. The theme automatically introduces the idea that these may be uncertain times, but not unprecedented. Unprecedented would then take on the assumption that God hasn't done something in difficult contexts or difficult scenarios in the past. So we don't want to say unprecedented, but it is for sure that we live in, it is certain that we live in uncertain times. Mission in times like these. Story comes from Riverside Farm, the Institute there in Zambia. Friend of mine, Craig Harding, is the president. He tells a story. Just recently, a guy near there found a dead hippo on the shore of the river, right there on the bank of the river, and decided he was going to cut it up, sell it for meat. He didn't want anyone else to see what he found, and so he went home and got 2 of his oxen and a rope, went back to the river, tied the rope around the hippo's neck to his 2 oxen, and began to drag the hippo out of the bank and was going to take it home. Turns out, the dead hippo was a heavy sleeper. And when he began to pull it up the bank of the river, the hippo woke up, startled, turned and drug the 2 cows into the river where the crocodiles finished them off. True story. But the moral of the story, don't assume anything. You know, the truth is, when it comes to mission, when it comes to the invitation of Jesus to be involved in the gospel movement, we make a lot of assumptions. So grab your Bibles. Grab them. We're going to the book of Acts, where the mission of the early church was just fired off. It's not the first time that the gospel was to go to the world. The gospel was always to go to the world. In the Old Testament with Israel, the gospel was to go to the surrounding nations. They were to bless those around them with the knowledge and the hope of the gospel. We know the narrative that they often failed. But here, Jesus came, lived, died, was resurrected and ascended, and gave birth to this movement. A gospel movement, a mission movement. Let's take a look at it. You got your Bibles? Acts chapter 8. I was surprised to find, reading the book of Acts, I was surprised to find that in the heart of the book of Acts, Acts chapter 8, Acts chapter 9, Acts chapter 10, there are 3 sequential but synonymous narratives, that's stories that agree with each other, that the collective point in the heart of the book of Acts, is one solid teaching through these 3 stories, one solid communication. So you got your Bibles, you're going to the book of Acts, Acts chapter 8. Acts chapter 8, and we're going to verse 26. Now, an angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Go south to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza." So he started out on his way. He met an Ethiopian eunuch, an important official in charge of all the money or all the treasury of the queen, of of the Ethiopians. This was the money man. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship, and on his way home was sitting in his chariot reading the book of Isaiah, the prophet. The Spirit told Philip, go to the chariot and stay near it. Then Philip ran to the chariot, heard the man reading Isaiah the prophet, and asked, do you understand what you are reading? Philip asked. That's this narrative number one. We've got three stories, Acts chapter 8, Acts chapter 9, and Acts chapter 10. Three stories. This is the first. Philip, an angel shows up to Philip and says, Philip, you've got to go down. Go down beside the road that goes to Gaza. Go down there. He didn't have a lot of information. All he knew was he was supposed to go. So he went. And he's sitting there by the road, Gaza, in the desert going, what, God? What am I supposed to do here? What impact can I have here? Why did I make a mistake? Why am I here? When all of a sudden comes this chariot riding by. Now, Philip does not know that the treasurer, this eunuch that oversaw the money of the queen, that he had just been worshiping in Jerusalem. He didn't know that. He didn't know what happens behind the scenes. When we go to a door, when we reach out to somebody on the street, we don't know their story. And Philip didn't know his story. And so Philip is sitting by the road and he feels this prompt, say something. Go say something to this man. Philip didn't know that he had been to Jerusalem to worship. And he didn't know that he was reading the book Isaiah. If Philip had known that, if we knew everybody's story, we could easily just, oh, not you, I'm going to reach out to you. Not you, I'm going to reach out to you. But that's not how God works. He says, I need you to go. I'm going to be preparing behind the scenes these people. So God had been preparing this treasurer, this money man, this important official, the Ethiopians. Philip is then told to talk to him. But he doesn't just stop. He's not sitting at a table somewhere that he can just Philip has to run. He has to run to catch up to the eunuch. This man is of great authority. Who's Philip compared to this man? What right does Philip have to run to catch up to him and run alongside him and then ask him, hey, do you understand what you're reading? Who's Philip compared to this man? Philip, I love that. He had to run. God, sometimes we just say, God, in this mission movement, I'll witness to anybody that you bring right to me. If you sit them down and they tell me that they want to be baptized, then I can witness to them. But that's not how this works. God has to challenge us. He said, no, I need you to step out of your comfort zone. I wonder, maybe Philip wasn't into running, but God said, look, I need you to step out of your comfort zone. I need you to run. You're going to have to run for this one, Philip. Philip runs after the chariot. What commitment. If there was ever a case that Philip could have stood by the road and gone, that guy's, he's flying by. He's not even stopping. You know those people, if you're looking for someone to witness to, maybe you're out on the street and you're thinking, who should I witness to? Do you witness to the person that runs by you or speeds by you? Or do you wait for the person that's just kind of sitting there looking like they're bored? No, of course, you would go to the person that looks like they're bored. But this man goes speeding by Philip. Philip has to run to catch up to him. If there was ever a case of Philip being able to say, no, I'll get somebody else, this would have been it. But God said, no, don't go for the easy ones, go for this one. I've been preparing him. Chase after him. Run, Philip. So Philip runs after him. Exhibit number one of the heart of the book of Acts. I think these three stories will display the mission of the book of Acts and how it was accomplished. And I believe we'll be able to walk out from these three with an understanding of what mission should look like in these times. So exhibit number one, Philip, placed in a position where a wealthy, important individual went flying by. He could have written him off. No, he's a government official. He's not interested. Look, he's speeding by. He's got somewhere to go. He's an important man. He's got important places to go. I'll look for somebody that, no, God says, you've got to go after those kind of people too. The people in government, the rich people, the important people, they need me too. All right, exhibit number 1. Exhibit number 2, Acts chapter 9. You one page over, right? Acts chapter 9 and verse 10. Now, we know who this character is. We've got him. Good old Saul turns Paul. Now, you remember, Saul is on his way to wreak more havoc, to persecute those who are following Jesus. He's causing pain and suffering. He's on his way to Damascus when Jesus shows up to him and says, "Hey, Saul, you recognize who's talking to you?" And he does. He says, "Whoa, Lord, I was just trying to do what I thought you wanted me to do. I now see, I'm done with that. I want to follow you." But nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. And so in verse 10, in Damascus there was a disciple named Ananias. The Lord called to him and said, "Ananias." Ananias was one that was committed to mission. He was all in for mission. So he said, "Yes, Lord." And the Lord told him, "I want you to go to a house, the house of Judas on Straight Street." Ananias said, "Sure, yes, yes, yes. And ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul." You can just hear Ananias kind of just, "For he is praying," said the Lord to Ananias. "In a vision, he has seen a man named Ananias come and place his hands on him to receive his sight." Now, Ananias, the Lord, you can kind of hear him choke it out. "Lord, I have heard," this is verse 13 of chapter 9, "I have heard many reports about this man and all the harm he has done to your holy people in Jerusalem. He has come here with the authority from the chief priest to arrest all who call on your name." Ananias says, "I've done my research. That's not a productive mission field. He's a dangerous man." "No, Lord, listen, let me explain what I know that you may not know." It's so silly sometimes how God will say to us, "Look, I need you to go to a mission field," and we'll start to tell him as if he doesn't know. "Lord, there's some things that you don't know about that group of people. They're not receptive to the gospel. Maybe they're violent, gangsters. They're too young, they're too old, they're too different, they're too poor, they're too rich, they're too..." I've heard of what they do. They're antagonistic, they're atheists, and they hate Christians. Whatever the case is, we start to tell Jesus what it is that he should know about why we shouldn't go. We treat him like he's some distant human that's just sending us an email. This is the God who's over all and present in every corner and every street of this world. Those are his children that he's seeking to save. And we try to tell him why it won't work. Well, that's what Ananias did. It's nothing new. It's what Ananias did back then. But the Lord said to him, verse 15, the Lord said back to Ananias, God doesn't mind a conversation as long as we're in the end willing to go with his plan. He says to Ananias, go. We've heard that before. Go in all the world, go. This man is my chosen instrument to proclaim my name to the Gentiles and their kings and to the people of Israel. I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. Hey, look, Ananias, don't worry. I'm here. Theologian and commentator William Barclay mentions Ananias. He is one of the most forgotten heroes of the Christian church. He was the one that went to Paul. Saul turned Paul. And we just go right to Paul and all of his work. But there had to be someone that was willing to reach out to him. Paul, an educated, antagonistic against the Christian faith. Ananias had every reason. He was right to respond back to God going, God, do you know A, B, C, do you know these things, why we shouldn't go? Come on, God. This is the difficult side of Joburg. These people in this corner of Cape Town, they don't like the gospel. They don't like people witnessing. Whatever corner of South Africa, whatever little box you want to put people in, there is always a reason why you can give God number one, number two, number three, reasons why you shouldn't go. It doesn't work with these people. God is thinking, I've got these people, I've got some gems in there that I want to use for my mission, but I need you to go light their fire. I need you to go mobilize them. You'll be just the piece in a long chain of an incredible work. Imagine being the one that reaches out and changes the life of someone like Saul or Paul. Could it be that God has a Saul turned Paul right now in South Africa? That if you just were willing to put yourself out, that he could use you to ignite them and they would go to the world with the gospel, to presidents and kings and the world. God turns to Ananias and says, Ananias, I need you to go. He's praying right now. Ananias didn't have any idea about all of what had happened. He didn't know that Paul had this, or Saul on the road to Damascus had this encounter with God. We don't know the backstory, young people. Listen to me. We make judgments on what we see or what we hear, but God says, you don't know the backstory. You don't know the full story. I've been working some incredible miracles. I just need you to go. We're like business partners with God. God, here's why your plan doesn't work, because this is what I know. And God is just, angels must just be rubbing their foreheads going, are you serious? You don't know half of what God knows, but you're trying to tell God why it won't work? Are you serious? We end up being like the silly farmer in Zambia who assumed the hippo was dead. Nah, it's a dead hippo. We assume people are not going to be responsive. We judge them before we ever go with the gospel. No, that person won't. No, they're... God says, who are you to decide? I just need you to go. Get a one-way ticket like Philip to the desert. Be willing to risk your life like Ananias and walk into a room. Ananias must have just thought, this is a bad dream. This is a bad dream. Of course, God wouldn't send me into the room with Saul of Tarsus. But because Ananias went, Saul was mobilized for the gospel. If ever there was a case of Ananias saying he wouldn't be interested, he hates us, he does everything against us, this would have been it. Exhibit number 3. Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 10, verse 1. At Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion in what was known as the Italian regiment. So this is a centurion. He oversees Roman soldiers. So he's a Roman soldier himself. Pagan is what they were known, right? He, verse 2, all his family were devout and God-fearing. He gave generously to those in need and prayed to God regularly. This is a Roman centurion. One day, at about 3 p.m, he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, Cornelius. Cornelius stared at him in fear. What is it, Lord? He responded. The Lord answered, or the angel answered, your prayers and the gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God. Now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon, who is also called Peter. All right, Cornelius said, done. So he sends his men. Meanwhile, at Joppa, so Cornelius doesn't know that God is also meeting with Peter. Of course, Peter doesn't know that God is also meeting with Cornelius. We don't know the full story. Now, verse 18. All the way down to verse 18. They get there from the little group comes from Cornelius. They get there, they called out asking if Simon, this is verse 18, who was known as Peter, was staying there. While Peter was thinking about the vision that he just had, now you remember he had that sheet come down with all those unclean animals. He said, I can't eat those. It went back up, came back down, went back up, came back down. And God said, hey, look, I'm making a point. You don't get to decide who. Now, we're not talking about food, clean and unclean food. We're talking about who you decide is receiving the gospel. You don't decide that, Peter. Peter was doing the same thing we do. No, they're not good for the gospel. Let's go after those people. They look like they might be receptive. No, let's not go for. God says, you don't decide that, Peter. So Peter's thinking about this vision. He's still thinking about the vision in verse 19, and the Spirit said to him, Simon, 3 men are looking for you, so get up, go downstairs. Do not hesitate to go with them, for I have sent them. Now, why do you think the angel has to tell Peter, don't hesitate? Because Peter's going to hesitate. This is not what Peter's used to doing. He's used to deciding, no, this is a good mission field. I'll go to these people, but not to those people. I'll reach out to those people, but not to those people. He's used to making those determinations, but God is telling Peter, don't hesitate. I need you to go. When I say go, you go. Oh, but maybe it's not just deciding people. Maybe you feel like you have to have everything in order. I need to get my family in order. I need to get my finances in order. I need to get my education in order. I need to get my relationships in order. I need to get God, let me get everything figured out, and then I'll be ready to go. And God is saying, don't hesitate. I'm talking to you now. I need you to go. Maybe it's just to your neighbors. Maybe all it is just to your neighbors. Just one of my friends, lovely family, right here in Colorado, here in the United States. She's a mother with 3 children. She says, God is telling me to go, but what can I do? I've got 3 young little children. My husband works. What do I do? So she maps out her entire neighborhood. 90 other homes, 90 other families, and she maps it out and begins to check it off one at a time. As each week she goes to more neighbors, she says, I'm going to go to all 90 of them. This is my mission field. I can't go across the seas. I can't go to another state. I can't go to another city because my 3 children are right here. But what I can do is I can go next door, and all 90 of them, she's checking them off. There's a lot of reasons she could say, well, I don't want to go to my neighbors. They'll think I'm weird. Then I want to just be friends with them. I need to get. No, go. Don't hesitate. God tells Peter, because Peter would have hesitated. He would have tried to figure it out. Hey, let's figure this out before we go. Oh, God says, no, don't hesitate. Doubting nothing, Peter. Don't doubt, just go. We like to be like Peter. Now, wait a minute, God. That's not a good plan. Peter could have said, look, God, I don't go into pagan homes if I go to this Roman centurion and the word gets out, then pretty soon other Jews won't want to hear me, and I'm trying to teach the Jews, so I should save my energy for the Jews because they don't want to hear, if I go into a pagan's home, God, we've got to, don't doubt, don't hesitate, go, Peter. If there was ever a case where Peter said, God, you don't really know. Those Roman soldiers, they're the ones that crucified you, by the way. Let's not go to them. They're not interested. They're pagans. They've got 100 gods, little idols. But what Peter doesn't know is the rest of the story. God says, Peter, I'll explain it all to you one day, but right now I just need you to trust me. Mission is all about going and trusting Jesus that he knows he's got the rest of the story. In the heart of the book of Acts are 3 impossible mission fields. You've got a rich government official from Ethiopia flying by on the highway, and Philip has to run to catch up. Hey, excuse me. Can I ask you about what you're reading? You've got Ananias, who's saying, I'm gonna share Jesus. Oh, wait a minute. No, not to Saul of Tarsus. Lord, Lord, if he's gonna kill me, he's gonna put me in prison. How's that gonna help your cause? And we start to negotiate. God, that's not good. If I end up in jail or dead, then I won't be able to tell other people about you, so I'd better just stay away from Saul of Tarsus. And then we've got the final one here with Peter and a Roman pagan soldier. God says, you don't know the rest of the story. I've been working behind the scenes. I sent that eunuch from Ethiopia, that treasure, I sent him to Jerusalem to worship. I've been meeting with him already. He has the scroll of Isaiah. You don't know any of that story, Philip. Oh, by the way, I showed up to Saul of Tarsus on the road to Damascus. You don't know that, Ananias, but I do. Oh, Peter, you don't know that I've already had a talk with Cornelius. He's already ready. You don't know all of that, but I do. I just need you to go. I just need you to go. It's impossible, it's improbable, but every time there's a conversion that happens. There's a conversion that happens, and the ripple effect begins with Saul and with the eunuch who takes the gospel back to his country, and with Cornelius, whose whole household is converted. John Stott, speaking of these narratives, says this fact that these individuals were converted is signal testimony to the power and impartiality of the gospel of Christ, which is still the power of God for salvation for everyone who believes. John Stott's point, the gospel still changes lives. It can convert anybody. If it can convert the treasure on his way, on that highway to Gaza, if it can convert Saul of Tarsus, if it can convert Cornelius, it can work in anyone's life. Back to back to back, 3 narratives in the DNA, in the genetics of the church, then is this mission to go to improbable, impossible situations. And God works miracles. He said, you don't know the backstory, boy, girl, don't worry about that. I've got it. You go. Just go. If you have to run to catch up to him, run. If you have to go into a risky situation, go. But I'm telling you to go. And I just wonder, young people, I wonder if it could be that the God who created 400,000 different types of plants that produce flowers, and the God who made 3 million different species of animals, this is a creative God. I just wonder if a creative God like that doesn't just love to create new and different situations that have never been seen before. Maybe God is calling you to a work, to a mission. And you say, but nobody else has ever done that. And God is saying, ooh, young person, boy, girl, man or woman, I want to do something new that has never been done before. I want to do something creative. Nobody's ever seen it before. Come on. Could it be that God is wanting to create new and different stories? 2 Corinthians 12, and this is now Saul turned Paul, right? So this is the same one that had the impossible situation. But 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 9. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. God uses your weaknesses to actually make miracles happen. Maybe Philip, he couldn't run. Maybe he was a bad runner. Maybe he had a limp, or I don't know. But God said, hey, Philip, if I can use your weakness, I'm going to cause you to run, and in that, they're going to see, wow, this guy is really trying to keep up with us, and maybe they'll interact with you differently because you're running. Ananias, I know you don't like tight spaces, you're claustrophobic, but if you go into that room with Saul, it will mean something. It will make a statement that nothing else will. Peter, I know you don't like to go to the pagans, But if you go, your weakness will become perfect in my strength. God doesn't take away our weaknesses. He works his strength through them to make beautiful, powerful miracles. My grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness because of him. One more story. It's my favorite surprise gospel kind of story. Unexpected. You don't see it coming. Happened to a young lady right here in, she attended Andrews University. I have never met her. Someday I'm going to meet her and tell her that her story is one of the best I've ever read. But her name's April Grube. This is her story. She shared it. It was printed. I read it, and it's a powerful story. I was pastoring at Andrews University. She attended Andrews University, but we never crossed. This is her story. She said it was 12:30 in the morning. That's a little after midnight. And I intended to sprawl out on the empty seats beside me on a flight from Los Angeles, California to Washington, D.C. That covers about 3.5 hours or 4 hours worth of a flight from one end of the United States to the other. Okay, it's going Joburg to Cape Town. And she says, I saw some empty seats next to me on the plane. I was going to sprawl out on them, but I saw down the aisle. He was fumbling down the aisle, bumping into passengers. Excuse me. I just knew that he was going to be my seatmate, right? You just see someone coming onto the plane, and you're like, they're going to have to sit next to me. He did. He sat right next to me. He said, hey, my name's Billy. I'm on my way to some meetings. And he continued to chatter. I just wondered if he'd ever stop. She said, it's the middle of the night. We were catching a red-eye flight, right? Flies all night. And I thought, this guy's crazy. But he had a strange joy about him, so she just kind of smiled and went along. He turned to her after a few minutes and said, sorry, what was your name again? I replied, it's April Grube. Excuse me, he muttered. I didn't quite catch that. I repeated my name, more clearly emphasizing the B in Grube, that most mistake for a V. He looked puzzled. He looked at me like I was lying. I can't believe it, he muttered. I can't believe it. You don't know me, but I know you. I know how you think, he said. I know how you feel. If it weren't for you, I don't know where my life would be. You've got to just imagine, you're in April's position. You're a young teenage girl, and you're just like, who are you? Oh, he said, the man, it's my pleasure to meet you. And then he tells her the story and takes her back a couple of years earlier. She says, I had stepped off a plane in Chile. I had just flown from Panama 3 years earlier. I'd been down there for some mission work. It was only a short time after I got off the plane that I realized I had left a book that I had been reading called Searching for God Knows What in the seat on the airplane. It was too late to go back and get it. I had written so many notes in that book, I could never replace it. But little did I know, while I had gotten off the plane, that at the very moment, a man named Billy was getting on the plane, taking the very seat I had vacated. Billy was coming home. He had had enough of his parents and work, so he had taken off to Brazil, later to Peru. Through his journeys, he realized that everywhere he went, there was always pain, always suffering. And so he had given up on God. He had given up on God's love. No God would allow such pain, he said. Nowhere else to go, out of money, Billy hiked to the nearest airport in Chile, bought a ticket back to the United States. He'd become an atheist, and he was headed back to let his family know he didn't want anything to do with God. He got on the plane that I had just gotten off, sat in the seat I had just gotten out of. He was searching for some headphones in the seat pocket in front of him. He discovered the book I had left in there. I had forgotten. and he began to read the book filled with notes. His first instinct, he said, was to laugh at whoever had written all the notes. But somehow he was drawn to the words inside. Billy had never known what he truly wanted, but somehow he knew he wanted whatever the person who had written those notes had. So he turned to the front of the book and began to read it cover to cover. Billy finished that book in one day. Early the next morning, as he turned the page to the last page, he saw my name scribbled, April Grube. He slowly closed the book, stared at the worn cover, and put it back in the seat exactly where he found it. But Billy, sitting in that plane, began to close his eyes, beginning to think, God, you're there. He didn't know what was going to happen next. He didn't have answers. But when he got off that plane, he had hope. I couldn't help but cry, said April, as Billy is sharing this story now 3 years later, how God had used a 15-year-old girl and a book that she had written in to bring Billy back to a hope in Jesus. Do you hear what we're saying, young people? 15 years old, and God puts his finger on the memory of April so that she forgets her book, her precious book, her book that she had written her thoughts and her feelings in. She forgot it on a plane, never to see it again. But at that exact moment, while she's standing in the airport in Chile going, oh no, God, I forgot about this. It's so terrible. Why did you let me forget about this? At that exact moment, God is going, April, you don't know the full story. Shh, just don't worry about it. At that moment, Billy is getting on the plane. He sits down, looking for headphones, pulls out the book, begins to smirk and laugh at, reads it and says, I want what this person has. 3 years later, in a totally different airport, Los Angeles, California, he gets on a plane, sits down next to the very girl that had written the notes in that book. And he says, April, you don't know me, but I know you. You changed my life. Young people, you can be whatever age. God wants to use your life to give somebody, a lot of people, the world. He wants to give hope. Go. What does mission look like in times like these? It looks uncertain as it always has. It needs a miracle like it always has. Go, go, go. Let God do a miracle on a side of a highway. Let God do a miracle with somebody who is antagonistic and hates the gospel. Let God do a miracle in a pagan home. Let God do a miracle through you. He knows the rest of the story. You go for the cause of Jesus. And someday we're going to be in heaven and hear story after story after story of the most incredible, the most creative stories ever imagined. Because we went. Go.
Baie dankie dat julle ingeskakel het en gekyk het na die preek. En die volgende program is vanmiddag 3 uur. En Martenique, sal jy vir ons sluit met gebed?
Kom ons buig ons hoofde. Baie dankie Lydia vir die wonderlike Sabbatdag. Dankie dat ons nou na u toe kan kom en uit die woord kan leer. Ek vra dat jy asseblief saam met ons sal wees en help dat ons weer 3 uur sal inskakel om nog 'n seën uit u woord uit te kan ontvang. Ons bid dit in u naam. Amen. Okay. Remember, be safe
And goodbye.
Bye.